Hello, thank you for viewing. This is the second part of the Kyoto Mind and Local Culture series. This is the table of contents. If possible, please read the first part first before viewing this one. Kyoto people are positive thinkers. The image of Kyoto people in words like hanari, elegant, and wabi-sabi, simple, gives the impression that they are easygoing, but that is also a big mistake. If you live in Kyoto, you will probably understand that Kyoto people are surprisingly impatient, and they don't like to slack off, talk for a long time, or have a leisurely rhythm like drinking tea. They hate waste, prefer things to be organized, and are surprisingly lively. This is especially true in the downtown area, and even in the entertainment world. They hate slow. They were often told to do it quickly. The image shows chazuk with pickles on top, which is babu chazuk in Kyoto. When you are offered babu chazuk, rice with tea, or tea, it is a sign to go home, a sign that it is about the time to go home. You may have heard this often, but I think it is also a good example of the temperament of Kyoto people. Don't make a mistake and accept it carelessly. It would be unpleasant to say, "You should go home now," directly. So this sign was thought up, and it conveys the feelings of, "Are you still here? How long are you staying? Please go home when you're done." It is not because they dislike people or are meaning, but simply because they dislike laziness, and it is a respectable, considerate expression. Please do not misunderstand. They are strict about discipline and etiquette. My mother was born in the center of the city, and was a typical Kyoto person. A Kyoto woman who believed that Kyoto people should be like this. The reason was that there was a strong belief that Kyoto people are like the representatives of Japanese people, so wherever we go, we have to learn proper greetings and etiquette so as not to embarrass ourselves. The background to this was that one of her uncles was a top trading company employee who had even become the branch manager of Mitsubishi Corporation in Germany. And from a young age she had often heard stories like, even over there, it was well known that Kyoto was the center, rather than Tokyo. Not only my mother, but most people, when they left Kyoto, it was a rule not to make a big fuss, and they would never bring shame to Kyoto. This was also a kind of first-class consciousness, and it was the pride of Kyoto people. The curse was 5 o'clock, and if we were even a little late, we would be locked out and not allowed in, or if we talked back, we would be beaten and chased out naked, and we would often be disciplined or punished. Something that would be considered domestic violence today. It's as if they're saying that not being able to keep a promise is a second-rate akashi. Image, chopstick manners are strict. From how to hold, place and use chopsticks, put on taboos, posture, not making noise, eating with your mouth closed, not walking lazily, greeting properly, and countless other etiquette that are "that's fine" were taught to me. However, it's really useful now. Thank you. Kyoto is first class, so it's natural to know that, and the top is always the top. And it was a policy to always aim for perfection. It's funny to get to this point. Kyoto people like strong ramen. Kyoto's flavors are light, so you might imagine that ramen looks like it has a light soy sauce flavor, with the bottom of the bowl visible, but that's a huge mistake. And it's actually extremely difficult to find such ramen in Kyoto City. It seems like there are restaurants like that now, but I don't think people my age, over 60, ever ate anything like that when they were younger. I think there are some elegant restaurants around Gion Hanamachi that serve light ramen with a little soy sauce in the broth. But ordinary people didn't eat it. The picture shows Tenkaipan's thick ramen. I sometimes crave it. When I think of ramen at restaurants I usually go to. The main ones are thick tonkatsu, thick tori python, and strong soy sauce flavor. As proof of this, Tenkaipan is a famous ramen restaurant with thick tori soup. Originated in Kyoto and has its main store in Kyoto. The ramen at Kyoto's Japanese-style food trucks, known as food stalls in Japan, is basically tonkatsu. I'm not sure if it's still there. But right after leaving Kyoto Station Hachiyo exit, next to Nippon Rent-A-Car, there was a famous Japanese-style food truck that opened at 5 p.m., and it served amazing tonkatsu ramen. On the east side of Hachiyo exit, under the overpass, Daiichi Asahi is now a famous restaurant, serving Japanese-style food truck-style ramen with lots of pork belly. There used to be better restaurants than this one. Murukyu, Friends at Nishio Oji Hachijoshita also serves tonkatsu. And the Japanese-style food truck that was in Kiyamachi at the center of Kyoto served strong-ass flavor. Kyoto is a city with a lot of ramen shops, but they're not all that salty, and there were many shops with strong flavors, and they were selling well. The images of the originator of Japanese-style food truck ramen, Yokozuna, which has 36 stores in Kansai, a favorite of taxi drivers. In the end, it turns out that most locals prefer the strong flavor. Nowadays, there are more tourist offices and more ramen. I once tried something called Kyoto-style ramen in Tokyo. But it was a light-flavored ramen that I had never tried before, and I thought, what is this? There's nothing like this in Kyoto. Next, Kyoto has a lot of fried chicken restaurants. The picture is of the now-defunct Toji Temple. Kinchan's fried chicken was so good. Rather than ramen and rice or gyoza, I often buy fried chicken as a set. I often bought just fried chicken to go with my drinks. In the past, chicken was the main meat for ordinary people, pork was the second, and beef was expensive and rarely eaten. When beef was served, I would be surprised and ask, is there something special today? So the word kasiwa equals churiniku is also used in the Kyoto dialect and is popular as meat. The most popular hot pot dish was chicken hot pot by far, and chicken was a common ingredient. That famous dish remains today as karage, fried chicken. The distinction between Kyoto City and the outside of the city, prefecture. Recently, TV shows say Kyoto Prefecture instead of Kyoto City, but people in the city probably wonder why. Back then, when they said Kyoto, they were obviously referring to Kyoto City. As I mentioned in number 1, around 1985, there were two types of car license plates, Kyo and Kyoto. The license plates in the city were Kyoto, and Kyoto was for licenses outside the city. Surprisingly, there are many people in the city who don't know this. People who are picky about cars know it. The image shows a Kyoto license plate which no longer exists. I drove one of those cars, Nissan, Ken and Mary GTR. Back then, they made that much of a distinction. This is by no means a good thing, but no matter where you are outside the city, Kyoto does not equal Miyako. The high school I went to was a private one in the city, so naturally there were a lot of people from outside the city who came to school. In my generation, people didn't bully or ignore others like they do nowadays. But, depending on the topic, there was an atmosphere of not paying much attention to it. Like, outsiders don't speak out. Prejudice. Discrimination? Sorry, Tilda. Filled circle divide Kyoto into 4 regions. Even within Kyoto City, there are big regional differences. Kyoto City has an area of about 828 square meters, but the flat areas, excluding the mountainous areas, are so small that they fit snugly into the 23 wards of Tokyo. You can go from one hashi to the other in 30 minutes by car, east, west, north, south. However, there have been significant regional differences since ancient times, and if you don't know this, you can't say you know Kyoto. Note, I don't think the differences are that great now, though. So, how did Kyoto people divide the regions back then? Here's my own opinion. Culturally: 1. Miyabi Kyoto. 2. Kyoto of craftsmen and entertainers. 3. Kyoto of ordinary people. And 4. Deep Kyoto. The images are roughly divided like this. Of course, it's a rough guide. 1. Miyabi Kyoto is, as you know, Gion Kaiwai Hanamachi, where Maiko, Gaiko, tea houses and other geisha line the trees, and where Miyako culture has flourished since ancient times. 2. Kyoto's craftsmen and entertainers also include Nishijin weaving and Kiyomizu ware, small items and crafts that support the arts, and the culture of Miya carpenters who build shrines and temples. 3. Kyoto's ordinary people are the culture of the people who live in the capital. 4. Deep Kyoto, which I will touch on later, is the deepest area in Japan that was forgotten by the government along the way, and the world of Koreans living in Japan. Points 1 and 2 have been highlighted in guidebooks. But we must not forget that Kyoto is a complex city that has been built up of these 4 cultures. First, divided into areas, dotted lines, north and south, above and below JR, former Japanese National Railways. This is the most different division. Even Kyoto Station was divided by the olden days into front, north side, or front, Shomen, and back, south exit or Hachiyo exit. Image, north side of Kyoto Station. The language in the southern areas, currently Minami Ward and Fushimi Ward, is not the refined and soft Kyoto dialect that everyone imagines, but rather a Kujo dialect, a Kansai dialect that uses a rolling tongue and is known as the Kujo dialect. More details will be provided later. Kujo, which became known for Kujo Leak. In particular, the area behind the station was a large-scale underground market after the War, and it was a place where returning soldiers, Kyoto residents who could no longer live in the north, and Koreans who could not return to their home countries gathered from all over in search of work. There were few pure Kyoto residents, and it was a mixed area, so fights and crimes were frequent. And there were Yakuza offices and other things, so it was an untouchable area. It was like a slum. More details later. The images, Hachijaguchi, Shinkansen side. 10 minutes walk from my parents' house. There were many girls working part-time at the station. Racially, the area was divided into northerners and southerners and Kujo residents. And even in the downtown area, if a northerner didn't know a southerner and got involved with them, the situation would instantly reverse, so southerners, Kujo people, were fearful. It was such a bad area that the only people you'd go to were either Yakuza or street vendors. In fact, I didn't like that, so I left the area as soon as I graduated from high school. I've seen a shootout between a Hakucho and a goose twice. I think the movie, Battles Without Honor and Humanity, was a big hit at the time, which also had a big influence. Kyoto City is laid out in a grid pattern, with east-west, horizontal, streets from Kamitobadori, Jujo, Kujo, Ichija and Kitayama-dori in the southernmost area, and several large streets running north-south, vertical, between Higashi-Ojidori and Nishi-Ojidori. From north to south, up to Shiodori, there are many so-called ordinary people. While the area north of Shio, around 2 on the map, is a town of artisans and merchants, and you could say it is an area where many people who support the elegant Kyoto live. It's just an approximate idea. Therefore, in my time, people from Kamitobadori to Shichijo were relatively bad-tempered. And people of similar character and above that were considered relatively refined. Sorry to the people who live in the lower area. That was back then. East-west. If you divide the area into east and west from Omiya-dori, which runs north and south, the area west of Omiya-dori is a relatively residential area, while the east is a mix of artisans and merchants. The area from Kawaramachi-dori to Higashi-Oji-dori in the east, and the small Akaku area north of Shio-dori to Sanjo-dori, is the typical Kiyomachi area, one on the previous map, that people imagine as Kyoto. The area from Shio-Karasuma to Gion is considered the center. Nowadays, the surrounding areas are just as developed as the center, but when I was little, the only downtown areas were near the main entrance of Kyoto Station, around where Kintetsu department store is now, and the Shio area. If I was dressing up a little, a neighbor would say, "It's nice to go to Shio." This is what people now say. I think so too. Finally, although some of my comments may seem like discrimination against certain regions, they are based on historical facts and experiences. I have many friends there, so I have no ulterior motives. To number 3.